What's up, world? This is
Consciousness Speaks with Onika Whyte
and Andrew Gobind. What's up, world? This is the Conscious Coach, Andrew Gobind. I'm alongside my co-host, Onika Whyte.
Hi, guys.
On this episode of Consciousness Speaks, we are going to dive into why ultimatums ultimately fail. You know, it's interesting because the ultimatums that we're talking about always comes back to a relationship. And what happens is a lot of times is it comes from two places. It comes from our ego or it comes from a place of our spirit where we no longer are being in a relationship that serves us. And I think if I break it down from an ego standpoint and I say an ultimatum, it's almost like, you know, here I am past the honeymoon phase.
Oh, yes. Tell me all about that.
And all of a sudden, you know, these things that I loved about this person, they can irritate me right now. Or they can now bring out these things in me. Why am I feeling like this? And now, because it's no longer in the honeymoon phase and not a lot of relationships get past that, I set the ultimatum. I put my foot down, I put my hand down, and I say, you know what? This relationship's no longer serving me. I'm not happy. You know, for whatever the reason is.
Yeah, but I find, Andrew, though, like if, for example, when you're in a relationship, before you even get into the relationship, I would say, like our GPS, we put a destination point in our GPS.
Yes.
But in relationships, I find a lot of times when we get into it, we don't have a destination where we want to stay connected. We want to stay, you know, in love, and we want to stay committed.
Absolutely.
Right? I feel like if we don't have those things set in place, those goals, then ultimately they can fail.
110%. And I think the interesting thing why ultimatums ultimately fail, we have to look at it like this. What ultimatums do we put on ourselves? The relationship we have with self. When I put an ultimatum, well, I can't, where is this coming from and why am I doing it? And I need to explore that.
Yes, explore meaning going within. Going within yourself and exploring who you are as an individual, what you can bring to the relationship, and not trying to get into a relationship because of what someone else can do for you to make you feel complete or enough. Understanding that when you wake up in the morning that you are enough, you woke up enough, and as a result you're able to bring a full and complete version of yourself into that relationship.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because if I'm giving that myself an ultimatum of saying, you know, I can't do this, well, you know, you're setting yourself up for the failure. That's where the ultimatum fails. Now you get into the relationship, you put, you know, this stuff that you haven't resolved within yourself on your partner.
Oh gosh, I know all about that, Andrew. I know all about that, Andrew, because personal experience, I did the same thing. I was putting everything, all my lack, my limitations, on my partner, hoping that my partner will fulfill me or make me feel complete. And that was a heavy burden for that individual. Really heavy, Andrew, I would say.
Not only is it a heavy burden for that individual, it's a heavy burden for you, Onika.
It is. Because that can cause conflict in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, disagreements, tension, disrespect.
Absolutely. All of these things that we don't want in a relationship. And the interesting thing that happens, guys, and we all know this, is everything points back to us. We need to start taking accountability. And I'm not saying this, you know, on my high horse because, hey, you know, the information or the tools I give you are the same things I need to adhere to as well and realize and understand in the moment. Because here's the interesting thing in relationship, and this is why ultimatums ultimately fail. We need to have oopsie daisy moments. So for example, when my partner does something that I don't like, instead of saying, hey, my ultimatum is that's it, it's over, I need to say to my partner, oopsie daisy, you made a mistake. I am giving you this space. Here's your oopsie daisy moment. And I am not taking it personal.
Yeah. Or Andrew, how about sometimes we can literally sit down with our partner and say, how can I be a better friend, a better partner? How can I start showing you more support in areas that you are struggling with?
Yeah.
We may be struggling with feeling lonely, more disconnected. How can I serve you or show you more support in those areas that you're struggling with at this moment in time?
And you need to, and again, if you notice, I come back and I circle back to it. You need to be able to do that with yourself. Because at the end of the day, when I give out these ultimatums, I go into a relationship feeling like half, as opposed, and now I'm looking for my other half, is what they say. At the end of the day, we are already whole going into the relationship.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, I must say, I never even agree with that before. Because I felt like my other half was over across the world or somewhere waiting for me to complete me.
Yes.
And so now I understand that I cannot look to someone to make me feel completed or light my world up, so to speak, when I get into a relationship. I have to go into a relationship knowing that I'm complete as I am and sharing my experiences, sharing my self-love for myself from a full cup with that individual I'm engaging in that relationship with.
Absolutely. And part of my work that I give to my clients and as a conscious coach is we are emotional beings and we need to look at ourselves as these beings and we need to look at our emotions. Stuff that's stuck. We need to be able to handle it and deal with it within ourselves so that we don't give our partner ultimatums.
We're so good at that, by the way.
Oh, I mean, it's the human experience. It's basically saying, there's nothing wrong with me and there's everything wrong with you.
That's not the real reality of it, Andrew, though. We need to look within ourselves and understand that whatever is happening outside of ourselves is actually happening within. And once we start looking within ourselves, we can start ultimately healing ourselves and be a better version of ourselves, and in turn sharing and having better relationships with the people around us, because ultimately that's what we need, to be connected, to feel accepted, to feel love.
We absolutely need to have this space of self-reflection, is like you said. And unfortunately, what happens before we start reflecting is we go through the ultimatum we give to the person. We now break up. And now everything we think that person was the cause of, we're like, well, the person's not here anymore. However, I'm still dealing with the same problems.
Hello, Andrew. I can relate to that very, very well. I experienced that because I thought, for some mysterious reason or another, that I was, the person was the cause of how I was feeling.
Yes.
But not realizing that it was all about me and me needing to heal those aspects of myself that were broken. And
I don't like that word broken that you use, because none of us are broken. What we're doing is we're always healing.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that point, because I've always used, it's thought patterns,
It really is.
Just the way we see things and, accept things. But you're right. I'm not broken.
No.
This is a good moment. This
God
is like a breakthrough moment, guys. happening right here on camera.
Yes, and we're going to have lots of these moments, and we want to share these with you. And it comes back again to the relationship. And like I said, Onika, it's funny where, we have to wait till the end of a relationship to now take accountability for our actions, because we have nobody else to point the finger to.
Mm-hmm.
We now have to point the finger to ourselves. And all we're saying is, on this human experience is now take accountability. For myself, it's interesting because when, I went through my separation and going through all of that hardship and my family, tearing that apart in a sense, and now becoming a single father and redefining who I was on that level, a lot of it was, well, maybe something's wrong with the other person. What was interesting is I was having, very similar relationships, and I now had to have a space to take accountability and say, you know what? A lot of this is on me. And here's where it starts, Onika, the self-reflection. We have to look at, these things, even from when we were children, what we were, the negative talk or something that happened to us that really made us think that this was okay, that we treat ourselves like that.
Yes. And that's not self-love, Andrew, because when we're harshly criticizing and judging ourselves, that's not self-love. But when we start looking at it from a positive light, and that's why we're here, to create those tools to understand that it's okay to go through these things, but here's what you could do if it ever occurs again, and how you can navigate yourself out of it.
So let me ask you this, Onika, before you give ultimatums to the next guy and say, oh no, another one bites the dust. Let me ask how, you've done the self-reflection. And when I ask you this question, the self-reflection is that little girl. And you go back now, you know, as this strong, beautiful woman, and you go visit that little girl and you let her know that everything is okay.
Oh, Andrew, I had to do that several times. My. And now, going back, I would say to that little girl, you are loved. You're accepted. You're appreciated. You're not alone. I love you and I care for you deeply. Oh, that was liberating for me. I've done it numerous times. And now, stepping back into this version of myself, who is a grown, strong, independent woman, I'm able to get into another relationship with a more positive, more accepting, and a more loving and understanding version of myself. Beautiful. And even more respectful, because honestly, I was not the kindest person when it comes on to words. Words will just come out with and no filter at all. But now I understand that it's important to treat people with respect and not trying to dictate to them or give them ultimatum.
And you know that's part of your feistiness, and I think that's part of your personality. But exactly what you said, you took the time to explore, you know, these things I dealt with when I was a child. You know, for myself as a child, you know, I was bullied a lot. So you know, there was that piece that was ingrained that you're not good enough or so you have to, you know, I got to use my big mouth to stick up for myself. What's interesting about that, it no longer serves me. And it gets me into more trouble within a relationship. Whereas I have to now take accountability and say, I'm not that little boy that was getting bullied. I'm a grown man that now has to stand on his own 2 feet and take accountability for his actions.
Yes. And treat the relationships around us with more love.
Yes.
Because with that big mouth, you can actually ruin relationships. Because then you're going to feel like you're always right.
Yes.
And what the other person has to say does not matter. And you don't validate, their feelings or their thoughts,
And it's so important that you said that, because, again, it comes back to the ultimatum. And when I give that person an ultimatum, I'm basically saying you don't matter. Yes. And if I dig deeper, I'm basically saying I don't matter.
Yeah. And we don't want to do that, guys. We want to make sure we're loving our relationships, we're taking care of them, and ultimately we're connecting and we're being there for each other. Guys, this is going to be awesome. Consciousness Speaks. This is what it's all about. These conversations are so awesome, Andrew. They're so enlightening.
Onika, and every time I speak to you, on or off camera, I'm learning and I'm healing. And I'm glad that we get to include everybody else on this journey.
Guys, stay tuned for more awesome content, guys. This is why we're here, for you and for ourselves as well, while we get on this healing journey together as a family and navigate through it so we can move into the awesome, more loving, more connected versions of ourselves. And at the same time, we heal the relationships in our lives, because at the end of the day, they matter. They matter. So let's start taking care of them. Bye, guys.
One love.